first and foremost wanted to share my personal story. This series is called My Celibacy Journey, and it started with a story. So I want to take that time to share that because I feel like there are so many people who could relate to some of the things that I may be speaking about, and just having similar experiences. And society doesn't really create those spaces to talk about that. You know, we know there are people who are celibate, but it's not talked about a ton because culturally we are so immersed in hookup culture. Everything we see is the message is delivered in a sexual way, even on commercials. Just it's just how society is set up nowadays. So I'm usually one that kind of plays the background and is hush hush, but this is something that is really um dear to my heart because not only am I just like walking it out, I'm living it, experiencing it for myself. I also really gained so much insight into how my mental health changed as a result of this journey. So that's really the biggest piece I wanted to share because there actually is a connection between celibacy and mental health. So, starting from the very beginning, essentially, first and foremost, I do want to say that I am a believer in Jesus Christ, and sex is the one thing that really kept me from building a relationship with the Lord. Like, I pretty much grew up in church, all of that, but I did not have a relationship with the Lord because at the end of the day, I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And that was being in a relationship, lay up. I was definitely a relationship girly. And you know, certain things had to happen in order for God to really tug at my heart and get me to um make a decision to turn to him, essentially. So from the beginning, I was in a relationship situationship, and I knew, like, I did not want to do this anymore. Like, sex wasn't even enjoyable anymore. But you know how, like, you're used to something, this is your routine, and like you just can't stop, you can't get out of it. So essentially I felt very stuck, trapped. It was a lot of depression during that time and season of my life. And I literally remember sitting on my bed and I was just crying. And I just began to talk to God. And I'm like, okay, God, if you're really real, I need you to help me get out of this. I had tried to leave before, and you know how, like, you always go back, you always find a reason to pivot and make that U-turn. And like I said, I grew up in church, but I didn't know God as my deliverer. I didn't know him as my healer. I knew him based on what I saw him do for my mom, doing her life and the people around her, but it wasn't a personal thing. He wasn't my God at that time, essentially. So I'm on my bed and just like, God, if you're real, I need you to get me out of this. Help me to get out of this. I specifically remember saying, create an exit door and give me the strength to use it. And literally, it was 3 months later that this happened. But I found out that this individual that I was with got someone else pregnant. And I'm like, immediately remembering the prayer, my conversation with God, asking him to create an exit door and give me the strength to use it. I knew at that moment, without a shadow of a doubt, that was God. That was my exit door. Because jealousy had started to set in, and I did not want to hate someone's innocent child that had nothing to do with this scenario. And I felt like that was unfair. So I decided to walk away for that reason, because a baby was a deal breaker for me. And like I said, I knew it was God, so I had peace this time. Not saying that the walk away wasn't hard, because obviously this person is still trying to pursue me, still trying to talk to me about staying and all of those things. But when God does something, He literally does it well. So I'm leaving the situation. Like, I can't do this. I don't want to hate your kid. Mm-mm. Because I know me. And so I was able to leave the situation. But that's really when the real work started to happen. Because if you think about it, I had been with this person for over 4 years. And so we were so immersed together. You know, we were so joined together and combined that as we were breaking apart, there was still pieces of me on this person, and vice versa. It was just so much residue in this separation. So here I am, this broken individual, trying to literally figure things out, trying to put my life back together. And keep in mind, I was not a whole individual. I was not a healed individual, even when I was walking in that situation, when I was in that relationship. So I'm already not whole in this relationship that I shouldn't be in, and now we're separating, and I'm in a worse off state than if I would have just stayed in it and went with things. And in this space, it was such a low moment, low time for me. You're talking about depression, feeling very unworthy, feeling very unsure, lost, just so many things that were going on. And that, I would say, was probably the worst I've ever felt mentally and emotionally, because if you think 4 years with somebody and walking away from that, that is some serious heartache. And mind you, I got with this person on some let's just have fun, let's kick it situation. We're both young, da 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 da. And the time spent just kind of developed into a looking up in this 4 years later. And the relationship obviously wasn't good for my mental health, because it was causing me to make decisions that I would never do, of things that I thought that I would never do. Just very poor decision making. It was a lot of people pleasing in that relationship, and really losing sight of who I was, because I didn't even know who I was, right? I wasn't whole going into that. And so that literally was God's opportunity, because at this point I'm vulnerable, I'm at my lowest. I don't know how I'm going to just do life day to day at this point. So I was really at a crossroad, and I, at this point, decided to give God a try. He was my last resort, so to speak. And I remember, just mulling this over in my mind of like, I have no other options. I'm gonna give God a try. And that's what I did. And so the next few months after that breakup were very, very rough, but there was a stripping away that began to take place. So every behavior, every mindset, just all of those things that truly were not like God, begin to be stripped away. And so anytime something is being stripped away that you've like grasped as your identity, or as who I was, that's a vulnerable place. That's a very vulnerable place. So again, I was in such a low place, but that was my rock bottom. essentially. There was my rock bottom. There was nowhere else I can go to figure this thing out. And so I really began to seek God, develop a relationship with Him. And He really ushered me into healing. This was my deliverance process, being free from all of those things that had held me captive for so long. And so, as a part of just my freedom journey and coming out of that, it led me to a place of I actually begin to know Candace. You know, I grew up with, you know, low self-esteem, low self-worth, and different things like that. I was definitely teased in school about being a darker girl, and so all of those things impacted who I perceived myself to be. So it impacted my identity because my identity wasn't grounded in God at that point. You know, I became what the world said or thought I was, and that's how I lived out my life. It wasn't until I had this encounter with God that thing literally began to change. It began to pivot the direction of my life. And so as I am positioning myself to be healed, positioning myself to get to know me as an individual, obviously that takes time. That takes time. And so for many seasons, I was buried underground, essentially, just like as we bury a seed for a garden, that it initially grows its roots first, is watered, is nurtured, and it begins to grow roots. And so that's essentially what was happening to me. I was growing roots in Christ, essentially. And this new person began to develop. This new person that this girl is new to me. And it was a process. And part of the reason why I believe, you know, your single seasons are so important, because many of us do not even know ourselves. Our upbringing wasn't necessarily, it wasn't that like all of these horrible things happened to me, but with the absence of a father, there were certain things that I missed out on, that affirming from your father. And so when you're not affirmed from your father growing up as a young lady, you begin to look for that affirmation in the world. You begin to look for that affirmation in relationships. You begin to look for that love in relationships. So really, God began to show me what it felt like to be loved by a father. Because again, I knew of God, but I did not know him. I didn't know what it really was like to be loved, be cherished, and adored by a father. So these are all things that are new to me, that I'm learning in this space. And so as I begin to walk through this journey, it absolutely was hard, because when you are someone who is used to having sex, I couldn't even see that it was possible not to do that thing. Like, it didn't even make sense. My mindset was, how do you show someone you love them in the absence of sex? I did not know. So there was a period where I wasn't dating. I wasn't even talking to anyone, you know, not casually dating or anything of that nature, because I really needed to find out who I was. Like, when I'm telling you broken. And there are times when many of us do not like the idea of what we call being alone. I don't know if you ever met somebody who like was always in a relationship. They'll go from relationship to relationship. There was never a period to even deal with the heart matters of what had just happened. Because you lose pieces of you in those sorts of separations. And so when there is not restoration in between, you just go from one relationship to the next broken. Just this cycle. That literally was the cycle that I was in. So in that particular season, after giving my life to Christ, I had to leave the dating alone. I was not well to be out here trying to be booed up with somebody. Like, I literally was unwell. And so during my process of healing, and let me explain what that process looked like for me. Like I mentioned, I gave my life to Christ. He actually began to reveal to me those hidden things that were in my heart, those voids that I was literally chasing to fill with things of the world, chasing to fill in relationships, when the reality is that relationship could never fulfill the void of not having my father. That relationship could never fill the void of not loving myself. But in my mind, in my fleshly mind, I didn't know or even realize that was why I was pursuing that. And you'll never be satisfied when you're pursuing something from a relationship that was never meant to come from that relationship. And what I mean by that is wholeness. You have to be a whole individual first. You can't pursue wholeness from someone else. They're going to disappoint you every time, because you have to be whole and healthy within yourself. So it's like, I'm whole and healthy, and this other person is whole and healthy, and together we're about to kill it. I can't bring a 60% person to this 100% man and think we're about to kill it. There are some deficiencies on my end that I have to address, or I'm going to be looking for that man to fulfill what he cannot fulfill. He can't make my self-esteem be what it needs to be, because I'm not satisfied with myself. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about the importance of pursuing wholeness as an individual first. And I had to literally learn this the hard way, like many of us. And so my 2 cents with that is, instead of jumping into that next relationship, really begin to pour into yourself, really begin to evaluate where you actually are. So here I am in multiple seasons of singleness, and God is literally revealing me little by little. And some of the things he's revealing, I'm like, whoa, you lying to me? What? So he had to reveal it in shifts, because if he would have showed me who I was and what was in my heart all at one time, baby. So I'm grateful for the incremental healing. So I want to put an emphasis on that, because many of us want to rush the process. We want to just hurry up and get done, hurry up and get to the end. But there is a reason why you're being processed. There's a reason why it's taking the time that it's taken. And I want to say, maybe it was like 3 years ago that I made the connection about the daddy issues that I did not realize that I had. So my father died when I was 9 years old. And so you would think at 9, I should have some memories. of my father, because he was in the household. My mom and my dad were married. Uh, but I do not have any memories of my father. I can't recall a certain conversation we had. It's like this man did not exist, right? And so that is very weird to me, because I think at 9 years old, you would have some sort of recollection of, a happy moment. And so, like I said, 3 years ago, God began to reveal to me that I had daddy issues. And so I had to take those things to therapy. I also had to give God space to work on my heart and really show me what it feels like to be loved and affirmed by a father. And so I'm in therapy. I recommend therapy. I am a licensed professional counselor as well. And so, like I said, being someone who is walking out this celibacy journey and also being a licensed therapist, it has really gave me the advantage to be able to bridge the gap and to see how our mental health is affected by celibacy or the lack thereof. So in that relationship, I was really emotionally unhinged, emotionally immature. I was again just seeking this person to fulfill these areas that were voids for me. And so, like, I was never satisfied. But I was also that type of person, like I said, who uh, wanted to be there for the partner, wanted to please the partner. It was just really a toxic, unhealthy balance, so because I wasn't healed, and I got so used to toxicity being the norm, that I did not know what a healthy dynamic looked like with a male, right? Even from friendships, which I talk about in another video, I did not know a healthy dynamic of friendship between a man and a woman. That's something that God had to reveal to me and teach me once my lens was healed, once my perspective was healed. Because at that point, my perspective was it was a toxic lens. It was a toxic perspective. I actually had to allow space for God to heal that perspective. And can I tell you that many of us have a toxic perspective of relationships? And so when we view the world through this lens, nothing is right. Nothing is going to be right, because we're off. Our lens is off. So that means that our thinking is off, and therefore our behaviors and actions are going to be off as well. So all of those places in my life, God was calling me to healing, literally calling me to healing. And when we talk about behaviors and when we talk about mindset, that really gets into just like these therapeutic aspects. And so I am giving this to God, walking through healing, having some wrestling with, man, everything is changing. I'm losing friends. Like, I felt like I was losing so many things, and that goes back to that stripping away that began to happen. But once the stripping away happened, it was due to the foundation having to be rebuilt, because my foundation had to be aligned so that my mindset could be built back up in alignment, exactly how it needed to be built. So I shifted from, I can't perceive how someone cannot have sex, to, wow, I want to honor God with my body. I want to wait until marriage to have sex. And so I want to speak to that, not from a a place of Christ, but from a place of maybe you are somebody who is not a believer, right? I want to make sure you hear my heart on why this message is still for you. This story is still for you. So the mental aspects of sleeping with that individual, which I already shared, it was a toxic relationship, but the sex in that relationship was addictive. It was very addictive. So here I am, essentially addicted to this person. And if you want to speak to it in reference to like someone being addicted to a drug, it was a matter of like I had to have it. I couldn't see how I could do life without it, although it was rotting me, literally killing me from the inside out. To the point where I became unhappy, to the point where like I literally would cry after we had sex because it was not fulfilling, but I had to do it. Like my flesh was craving it. My flesh was saying we have to do this thing. So it was extremely addictive. And it was hard for me within my own power to take a step back and leave it alone, although I knew that it was addictive. So it was a heavy toll on my mental health due to this. But when God had delivered me and I was able to like truly walk away, my mental health shifted. I mean, like night and day. Completely shifted. So now everything about my thinking is different. And so again, what we think does impact our behaviors. So my cravings begin to shift as well. All of those things. And I want to speak to another thing that women speak about, or individuals speak about, because I know they got male stuff too, but like toys. So I definitely was someone who had some. So the thing about that is those are also have an addictive component to it as well, to make you believe like I need this to the point where it'll you wanting that toy will have you going to get batteries at 2 a.m, or just something crazy that's like, why am I doing this? So the same addictive components, it's toxic. It was literally breeding toxic behavior, and though that was one of the things that literally had to be stripped from me, in order for my perspective like to truly heal. I had to take a step back and let go of everything that was breeding toxicity, essentially. And so again, if you are someone who may be struggling in that area, I would advise really reevaluating and letting that go. Seeking the help or support you may need to be able to do so, because toxicity just breeds more toxicity. And so I'm in a place where, okay, I'm getting my mental health together, and I just begin to feel so much better, so much lighter emotionally. I wasn't carrying just all of this baggage with me. And then I'm beginning to heal in many of these areas where I felt so broken. And can I tell you, when a woman begins to heal, my Lord, everything about her begins to change. My confidence begins to shift like no other. When my confidence began to shift, I began to show up in rooms a completely different person. I wasn't necessarily the quiet, shy person, but there was such a boldness that began to come out of me. just from a shift in my confidence, I began to walk. I began to know who I was. So I walked differently. I acted differently. There were so many things about me that shifted. I'm telling you, if you actually saw or knew me, um, knew the person from, I would say, like 2012 to 2016, like, you would not believe that this is who I am today. Literally night and day. And so literally it was me taking a step back from sex and really working on me, internally. And that internal work really began to show externally. Yes, it took a while. And taking it back to just that garden example, when something is growing underground, it's growing roots first underground. You won't necessarily see it on the surface, but baby, when that thing breaks through the dirt, oh my gosh, it already had a solid foundation, so it could just grow and flourish how it needed to grow and flourish. And that's what truly happens when we take a step back. And so, like I said, I really just wanted to share my story of how I got to this point. I also talk about that relationship and that dynamic a lot more. I actually wrote a book about it. The book is called From Destruction to Freedom. You can get that off of Amazon. Also, my website, CandiceGraves.net. Again, it's called From Destruction to Freedom. I would strongly recommend, if that's you, or you know somebody who may be struggling in a relationship, that book will really encourage you. It is possible to walk away. It is possible to be free with whatever you feel like you're tied up in. It's possible. So definitely, this is just the foundational video of my celibacy journey. I am sharing this through a series of videos just to share more. I want to give out everything I'm learning through this process to whomever it may help, because I was that girl who said there is no way I cannot have sex. There is no way. And here I am, literally 7.5 years, walking this journey out by choice. I'm not forced to do this by any means, but I've seen the benefits. I've seen the growth. I've seen the acceleration, not just physically. I've seen it touch every area of my life. And that's the gem I want to share with you. This celibacy journey is not, it's really not about, it's not just about not having sex. It's not. It's much bigger than that. But my mind was so focused on the sex piece that I could not see the possibilities beyond that. And so I want this series to truly touch on the possibilities beyond that. So definitely go to my YouTube channel, check out the other videos that I have. I'm going to be talking about this for a while. I'm also doing a free group. It is going to be a virtual group for individuals who are wanting to walk through the process. Maybe there are some areas in your life you feel like you're not whole. You want to walk through the journey of wholeness. I am extending an invite to do that. So more information is coming about this group specifically. So definitely follow my page so that you can get the notification. So yeah, let's get ready to work.